Hi guys, TonyRo here. Battling. Jeez, I give up. I resign. This guy. I'm battling this guy. 21-21. Kogevnikoleg, I guess. Playing in English, slightly switching it up. Instead of my usual one knight f3. And luckily enough, we reached something that you would never reach via one knight f3, which is 1e5. One knight f3, 1e5 is the Rondep gambit, I think. So this has a potential to be many things. Black can go knight c6, knight c3, and the English three knights, after which she can go bishop c5 or bishop b4. What the hell is that? Okay, I guess I'm just going. Bishop e7 is somewhat unusual. I feel like the probably principled thing to do here is to go knight f3 and then on d6 play d4. I think I'm going to do that. This, I guess, could reach something. I mean, it could just reach maybe an old Indian proper even after d6, d4, knight b to d7, and then like e4 castles. He goes knight c6. That sort of precludes that option. I think I'm still going to go d4. I think usually these structures where it's white trades off the d pawn for either the e pawn or the c pawn, and gets essentially the c4 pawn versus the d6 pawn, it always feels slightly better for white to me. Maybe that's just stylistically I enjoy these positions, but always felt comfy. Now black sort of has a decision to make because knight d4, queen d4 probably helps white a little bit in that it accelerates my development and puts my queen on the strong d4 square. But d6 hangs a pawn, so what to do? I mean, playing knight takes d4 here is sort of like playing 3 knight takes d4 in the Scotch. Like if e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, and then you play like knight takes d4. Or e takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, 4 knight takes d4. Is just not that great of a move, but black doesn't have many choices, and even after d6, he's still going to be a little bit reluctant to develop the light squared bishop because of the hanging b7 pawn. This thing's just a total savage now. Kicking off Friday with a little Lichess action. There is nothing better. Oh, man. I still have the chess.com pieces. Shit. Okay. I really like those pieces, but I don't want to use them on recordings because I don't want to get in trouble. I have a stylish script that allows me to use those pieces whenever I want, and usually I play with the light theme. I'm sort of more of a light theme man, but I don't, actually it's pretty funny if you look at my videos. It's like there's an overwhelming preference for the dark theme, and so I use the dark theme and I don't use the chess.com pieces. I actually recently recorded 2 videos in a row. Not even like months apart or giving me time to forget. I recorded 2 videos in a row, both light theme, both chess.com. I guess they call it the Neo pieces. And I just didn't post them. I felt bad, I'm not trying to get in trouble or anything, and people just hate the light theme, man. They're harshing on it, so I don't use it. I don't feel good about it though. I think basically the only move here that I should be considering is bishop f4. I'm just thinking about what he does after rook f to d8. But that's a big mistake that I make. I think if you essentially know you're going to play bishop f4 no matter what, and you decide that's the best move and that it's not a blunder or anything, you should just play it immediately and let him think about rook d8 for a while, or knight e8, for instance, and use his time to think. That's one of the things I don't do that well with time management. So we're here now. I'd presume he'd go rook d8 just so if he has to go knight e8 later, the rook is already on the good side. And the question here is if c5 is any good. Sort of feels like knight e8 is forced, and then I have to decide what to do from there. Maybe just knight e4. Yeah, that doesn't really work. I think. c5, knight e8. Knight e4. D takes c5 maybe. The problem is knight e8 also protects the queen, so d takes c5 with like a weird discovered attack is possible after that. If I'm not playing c5, what am I playing? Like, it's sort of the most natural move. Okay, I'm just gonna play it, and again, if he's got to play knight e8, and then I need to think about what to do. I don't know. So if knight e8, c takes d6, what happens? Knight takes d6 and then knight e4 maybe? I think knight e8, c takes d6, bishop takes d6, knight e4 is probably a better version for white. He can't take on f4 because queen takes d8. There's a pin on the d file. And so then even if he can somehow... Whoa. Does that work? I thought I could take here and then take here. So bishop takes... Oh, he wants to take with the rook. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Did I just blunder a pawn? Queen takes d8, bishop takes d8, or queen takes d8, queen takes d8. Seems like it's sort of forced. Rook takes d8, bishop takes d8. Okay. That is an alternative. If bishop takes c7. I mean, rook takes d4 actually just seems much better for black, unless I have something there like e3, rook d1, rook d1. Nah, then like bishop e6 or something. Oh, there's there's just queen f6. Okay. Yeah, all right. I saw it for a second, and then I confirmed it real quick, I think. Probably should have thought longer, but now that I see it, I know it's the correct move. I think it's pretty much winning instantly. In fact, there's no really good retort to this. Just sort of a standard discovered. Well, not even a discovered attack. It's really a desperado, I guess. If you'd like to classify it. That's funny. Weird, like, this happens sometimes in chess, like with weird blindness. Like, depending on... Some players would find queen f6 completely immediately. Like, okay, I'm threatening his queen. He's threatening my queen. The standard sort of chess logic goes, can I, like, move my queen out of the way with another threat or something like that? But for whatever reason, the first thing I started calculating was not along the, like, desperado line of thought. It was more like looking at these two captures. I think these two captures are maybe slightly more obvious than this one, but... And black's down a piece for a pawn. I don't know if I said this already, but I hope everyone's having a good weekend. Good start to the weekend, I suppose. Let's see, what did I do today? I worked. Morty's out cold underneath my desk, as is usually the case when I'm recording now. I work in a really loud like machine shop usually for a lot of my day, and I think normally dogs kind of get sleep throughout the day and they take little puppy naps, but he doesn't really have the opportunity to do so. And so normally when he gets home, he plays like a psychopath for like 20 minutes and then he just completely falls asleep. Welcome to YouTube, Teenon. Shout out to Teenon, one of the integral members of the Team 45 League. He writes the ledger, always does a good job, generally a good dude. Did I copy this? Hard to say. Let's go to, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let's go to studies. This was a short one. What am I doing here? Where's my YouTube games? I'm dumb as a stump today. Okay. The games that I played that aren't going to make it on YouTube are still in this thing. Take a look at them before I decide to delete them. Okay, so I played the English, and I like playing against e5. Some people think, okay, if how do I say this? After knight f3, there are really three kind of responses: knight f6, d5, c5, and then there are e6 and c6. So really 5 responses, and 5 main responses. And after the English, black has the same responses: knight f6, e5, and c6, e6, and d5. Really, a lot of people think, well, black has essentially the same options against c4 as he does versus knight f3, except for the fact that white has to also deal with e5. And knight f3, d5 looks like an extra option for black against knight f3 because d5 here is obviously not very good, but knight f3, d5 will almost generally always transpose to something that you could reach via c4. I mean, unless white doesn't want to play c4 at all. So, where was I going with this? Actually, the one reason I don't really like playing c4 as much now is that I don't really want to transpose to the fianchetto King's Indian. Usually I play g3 here. And I haven't found anything that I like as much here as from this position. I really like playing this b3 King's Indian, but it's not really possible from this move order, I don't think. The problem is if you wait too long and then go b3, it's sort of awkward, I think. But also, in these positions, I think white is less prepared to deal with like Grunfeld style structures with d5. Once the center opens up, I think b3 looks a little bit odd compared to having knight f3 in instead. Like, this is a much better version as white. You could see, I mean, even Stockfish says like minus 0.3 here and plus 0.3 here. I mean, the difference is very large. So, little subtlety there we're talking about. I'll delete these. They won't make any sense later if someone's not watching the video. And this is a very important position in the English opening nowadays, and the usual ways to go here would be either knight c6, and then white would go knight c3, and then there's either the reverse Rossolimo, essentially, with bishop b4, or, I don't know, the English 3 knights with bishop c5. I think some people call this the Karpov variation. I like to go e3 here and play knight e2 and blunt the bishop. Go knight e2, and you're looking for d4 or f4. Very interesting positions. I think they're super fun to play. One thing that's fun about these positions, depending on your sense of fun, is that black can sack a pawn here with d5 and then go knight b4 because of this massive threat. Even weirder, it's actually theoretically respectable to just go knight f3 here and allow the check. Look up, there's a game by Ivanchuk where he played this. I think he might have been the first one to unleash this idea in practice. But yeah, that's an interesting idea. You can also go into the reversed dragon. People call it the reversed dragon, but it's actually the reversed accelerated dragon because I haven't touched the d pawn yet. And then I had a team 45-45 game that I annotated for the channel that went knight c3, hitting the knight, of course, and then e3. Again, planning to go knight e2. More standard would be like knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight b6, castles, and then bishop e7. And then white has a bunch of moves here, a3, d3. I think rook b1 is even a move. Yeah, and if you haven't seen these positions before and you go, why the hell would you play knight b6 here? It's just sort of a weird arbitrary knight retreat. Two reasons. One, there's sort of a concrete threat of knight takes e5 with a discovery on this knight on d5, and if you try and get rid of the knight, like for instance, if it was white's turn, knight takes e5, knight takes c3, knight takes c6, you flick in first, or you can play knight takes e5, knight takes c3, bishop takes c6 check, b takes c3, and b takes c6, and then b takes c3 or whatever. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that even if black deals with the threat on the knight, and this knight takes e5 discovery with bishop e6, white gets to reveal sort of the point of the accelerated dragon move order by going d4 in one move. So in the normal dragon, let's say if we go like this, it's like not super obvious right away, but black is, I mean, in most variations of the Sicilian, in fact, black is always shooting for d5. Black wants to exchange this d pawn for this e pawn and liquidate white's small space advantage in the center. But in the dragon, you already play d6, and so going d5, I mean, if you can go d5, by all means go d5, but it costs you a tempo if you could have just went d5 in one move. So that's why some people started playing knight c6 here instead of d6, such that after something like this, let's say bishop e3, knight f6, bishop c4, whatever, or not bishop c4, let's say bishop e2, to make my point, castles, castles, black can go d5 in one move, and he saves a tempo, and this would be extremely good for black. Well, at least equal. But black in practice scores pretty well from here. And so, in this position, black goes knight b6 to stop d4, adding the queen as a defender to the d4 square. But my opponent goes bishop e7. I don't know, a little passive to me, a little odd. Like when you have, I think, less committal moves. I mean, for instance, just the old principle, knights before bishops. You could go knight c6, especially when you're planning on going knight c6 like a move later anyway. Like black played knight c6 2 moves later after just castles, so I'd rather just play knight c6 here. And on knight c3, if you really want to play bishop e7, you can, but you also have, again, more active options. Bishop c5, bishop b4. So, yeah, I'm not totally certain about bishop e7 here, but... Oh, and also popular nowadays is the Curie system with c6, of course, intending to go d5. And this is basically a reverse Alapin for white, a tempo up, but white's committed to g3 and bishop g2. So it's like this position, but a tempo up. So, oops. How many games have seen this position? Well, quite a few. White scores pretty well. Yeah, and people usually are going knight f3 there, which is nice. d6 seems a little bit more natural to me. Reason being, I guess, that after, okay, d4 immediately, or castles will probably end up being the same thing. Black can go knight b to d7, and after this, you can see the number of games increases dramatically because we transpose back to the old Indian. Black would go c6, white would go e4, and we have a very popular variation of the old Indian defense. Usually reached by one d4, knight f6, c4, d6, and then knight b to d7, e5, and then c6 later. I won't go into the details. But knight c6 here strikes me as a little bit, maybe even dubious, because after d4, now d6, d5 would just be better for white. You have to move the knight, and it's going to go to an odd square, and that you can sort of just see that this thing is misplaced. And again, this would be a position where if you had your knight on d7, you'd be more happy as black. The knight on d7 would be well placed in a structure with d5, but not only is white gaining a tempo, but also, yeah. So, and my point is that you'd really like to maintain the tension with d6, but because that runs into d5, black sort of has to take. And after this, again, it's I mean, you can play a move like rook e8, but after castles, it sort of feels like, again, you're going to have to maybe think about taking on d4 because you need to complete your development with d6 and not hang this c-pawn. And if you have to play knight takes d4, queen takes d4, I think you've already messed up. Because knight takes d4, queen takes d4 dramatically helps white. I mean, this queen on d4 is very powerful. Now the long square, the long diagonal's unlocked. This position, even here, already seems extremely uncomfortable to me. Rook d1. Ooh. I'm proud to say I've been following Timur Gureyev here so far. Let's see. b3 was worth considering instead of rook d1. I did think about it, but the problem is bishop b2 is maybe it's a good square, but maybe it's not the square given that black has played c6 d6. It is interesting though. I think maybe it's worth some thought. Why not here? Yeah, the problem to me here is it feels like d6 is so juicy, and one of black's main problems in this position is the d6 square. Like, this is obviously pretty attractive, and white is no doubt better, but maybe it's slightly less to the point than going rook d1, bishop f4. At the very least, maybe I can just play rook d1 and wait on b3, bishop b2 a move and see what black plays. Like, when he goes queen c7 especially, bishop f4 is kind of becomes a lot more enticing than b3, bishop b2. Not only does it only take one tempo, but, you know, obviously there's this nasty pin here, so. And all these moves are just pretty natural. This is a common scenario. I've had this happen a ton of times in my games, and I think one of the problems here for black is like knight h5 and getting the bishop off this diagonal is one move short. I can just take on d6. Either way, really. By the way, shout out to Tebow for many things. You could almost play like a, you know, I Spy with new Lichess features on this one screenshot here. There's a go deeper feature, which if you reach like the max depth, so Lichess decides based on your performance of like your computer for this local stockfish, how deep you should go. But now if you click this go deeper, it just sets the depth to 99, which is essentially giving you infinite analysis in Lichess, which is pretty amazeballs. I do wish that I did not have to click anything and I could just set it somewhere. Like I could just go like over here or whatever and just click like, you know, Insano mode or something, and it just gives me infinite analysis all the time. Because like if I make a move, it goes back. And I don't want to say this out loud, but for fear of like, I'm going to end up in like an Anton squared me tweet, but like I would like to go deeper all the time. is basically my issue with having to click here over and over again. Is I just want to be okay. I'm just gonna stop there. Actually, I'm not gonna throw more fuel on the fire. That's the first new feature. Second one, shout out to novelty being back. I'm trying to see like where the novelty was. Okay, it was queen c7. This is for you, Tebow. Bam, novelty. I used it. He screamed at me in the Lichess Slack like 2 days ago. I was like, you know, asking for, as I always do. I have no programming skills essentially whatsoever, but I always go into the Lichess Slack and I just request more stuff. And I'm sure it's really annoying. So I went in there and I requested something, and then he goes, "Did you use novelty yet?" And he like screamed at me. So I have used it. if you're watching this, Tebow, I used it. Okay, I'm running out of breath. The last feature is this little target down here, the practice feature. I'm not going to click on it, but you should click on it at some point and see if you like it. Essentially, I could take this position and run it against Stockfish really as many times as I want and get small little comments on whether or not I'm playing well. And so if you, like, for instance, if you wanted to test out some really typical endgame, like, rook and two pawns versus a rook, or, queen and a pawn versus queen, or if you want to play out like typical attacks that maybe are more complicated than a tactic where you can just brute force calculate it and you kind of need to play it out, you could practice it with Stockfish, and it would show you like kind of where you went wrong, and you could practice it over and over and over again really easily, and even save your results in a study. You can open this practice thing. I mean, this is obviously in a study, but you can open it from the normal analysis board too. And try it there too. So give this a little practice as well. Okay, rook d8, c5. See, I wonder now if knight e8 is more precise. No. So if I go c5 and he takes it, I can just go queen e3 and he loses the bishop. Okay. Yeah, and then I was thinking knight e4, but is there anything wrong with knight e4? No. Okay, that's winning too. We'll use my move. Okay. Exclam. And this actually this just doesn't work, unfortunately. I thought it was fine, and then I missed it for a while, so. But, yeah, I mean, I'd leave it as a puzzle, but you guys already saw it, and there's just nothing here. Is there nothing? Yeah, there's nothing. So a quick one. I'm sorry it was a quick video. I should have offered the guy a rematch maybe, but there will be more. There will be more. I will be back. Hey, everyone, if you're watching this on actual Friday night, don't. Go out, have fun, don't be a loser like me. Go out somewhere, have a good time, imbibe in a couple of alcoholic beverages, don't drive. And enjoy your Friday. And then I will probably see you guys back with another video on Saturday. Peace.